Hi, I'm Ron Moorhead, and you're listening to the Paranormal Zone.
Look, I know the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen, but it does happen.
A ghostly apparition in the dark of night.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Hey there, ponderers of the paranormal. You have found the Paranormally Zone, your place for all things paranormal, mysterious, and strange. My name is Patrick Koffenberg. I am responsible for these shenanigans, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host with the ghosts, the paranormal poster boy himself, the roided up Mike Carbno.
The roided up.
Roided up Mike Carbno. Now, please, I will let you explain the roided up description.
That just means that I have Zach Bagan muscles.
Oh, there you go. There you
No,
go.
not true.
Not quite. You have a little ways to go yet. A little ways to go.
Yeah, I've just been put on different meds here and there, and my latest is a week-long regime of prednisone, a bit of a steroid, which has helped part of my issue. But some of the worst parts are still quite prevalent, like the stabbing knives into my joints.
Good Lord. And that's not from your lovely lady friend Mary either. She's not literally stabbing you. Let's make that very clear. We do have new listeners every now and then, so let's make that very, very clear. Mike is obviously referring to his nearly indescribable battle against severe back pains, and we won't bore everyone to death with it, but it's something that you've been literally struggling with for a long time, and you're trying to find some sort of I don't want to say cure, relief from this.
Relief is the best way to put it. I've always had the back problems, but then on top of that, my joints have started getting crazy, and my doctor yesterday they took like 6 vials of blood out for different tests, and she said they're going to test for some kind of weird arthritis, is the way she put it.
Oh, nice.
Which,
that's reassuring.
But I was looking on the paperwork, and of course, rheumatoid they're checking for and things like that. And lupus was mentioned.
As long as they don't come back to you a couple weeks from now and say, yep, you are suffering from carbnotoid arthritis.
Yes, carbnotoid.
It's such a rare form that they name it after you.
Yeah. There's one other person in southern China, just one person.
Right.
A 98-year-old man named Xinhua.
Right. So they had no name for it, and they just didn't want to spell out Xinhua's name more often. Carbnotoid is easier. So I don't know, man. That's it's we all feel for you, Mike, and we're hoping for the best. Fingers crossed. You did say that you're feeling a little bit better tonight, so that's good.
Yeah, the steroids seem to have helped my feet issue that have had a lot of pain and whatever, but the rest of it not quite. But I still have 3 days left of my steroids, and my dog is.
I know. I was going to say apparently your dog is on roids tonight. Apparently again. So
time to get the whip out.
Yeah. No, don't even joke about that. We'll get taken down. We'll get taken down.
No, I have no whip. Well, I have a very soft one with a boa type handle.
Well, there you go.
That is
works.
Put in a certain corner of the bedroom.
Oh my goodness gracious!
No, Just
Nope,
kidding.
TMI.
I don't even have one of those.
TMI, Mike.
Yeah,
Good
don't even have one of
Lord.
those. But
Okay.
my dog is well loved, never hurt,
I thought you were going to say the only
never
whip.
abused.
I thought you were going to say the only whip you had was Cool Whip, but you didn't go that
Cool
way.
whip,
Yes, Cool Whip. Yeah.
cool whip, cool whip.
Well, we are here, though, Mike. This is the Paranormally Zone. Thank you for making the time and effort to join me tonight, Mike. This is Friday, February 25th. Whenever you listen to this, it will not be Friday,
That's right.
25th, 2022. It could be. You might listen to it immediately afterwards when I release it in a couple hours. But we're talking the Greenbrier Ghost tonight, Mike. That's the main focus. And one last take on the Minnesota ICEMAN. That's going to be fun to talk about that. I know that we mentioned it back in the day when we were the Alternate Route podcast. We talked briefly about the Minnesota ICEMAN, but I don't think we've really ever.
We did.
I don't think we did a too deep of a dive into it. So I think it's a good topic for one last take. We're going to change up the one last take a little bit. If you have been listening to us for a while, our one last take usually ends with Mike and I ranking on a scale of 1 to 10 our level of belief of any number of cases, any number of cryptids, any number of paranormal stories, yada, yada, yada. 10 being absolute belief, 1 being absolute hogwash. I say nay to that idea now, Mike.
Yes.
And I and you agreed with me earlier, or you think
I
it's a
had no
decent idea?
choice.
Yeah, that's right. You have no choice. Speaking about whips, I have the whip around Mr. Carbno, that's for sure.
He has an internet web whip.
I do.
Web whip.
Good Lord.
Whip.
That sounds kind of gross, but
That's a special site to go to.
that
there.
is a very special site. Yeah, we have the Patreon site, and then we have the web whip site. I lost my train of thought now. Oh yeah, back to one last take. We're just going to say either BS or believer, Mike. BS or believer when it comes to these topics. So tonight, you and I are going to have to choose one or the other, no matter how close. You could be a 9 out of 10, or even 5 out of 5, halfway, where you're literally straddling the fence.
But I got to make a choice.
You have to make a choice.
Right.
So that'll be interesting. When I texted you last night, I was perusing through said topics and potential topics, and I came across the Greenbrier Ghost, and I was like, oh yeah. And when I mentioned it to you, you're like, yeah, that actually sounds familiar. So I'm going to ask you right now, Mike, straight up, how familiar with this story are you? And when you thought it sounded familiar to you last night, were you thinking of something else, or was this actually what you were thinking of?
It is actually what I was thinking of, but I just knew very little detail on it. I have never really dug very deep into it, but
yeah, same here.
I've had just a passing knowledge, I guess you could say.
Right. Well, it's definitely a fascinating. I don't want to call it a legend, because it's a legit story. It legit happened.
Right.
Whether or not there's a paranormal connection to it, that's still up in the air. Now we're going to dive into all that here shortly. But long story short, this case, the Greenbrier Ghost case, can quite legitimately be called, Mike, the only ghost case to actually help win a murder conviction in court. Right.
Even though they didn't actually bring it up during the trial.
Well,
but they did reopen it because of the ghost story.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating, the details of this. Yeah. Well, without any further ado, let's just dive into it.
I'm ready.
That sound okay, Mike? Sound okay to you?
I'm ready.
Now, the Greenbrier Ghost case involves a tragic death of one Elva Zona Hester Shue. And we were joking earlier today, Mike, or before we went on air, about all these people seem to have about 97 names.
Right.
So, which is wonderful.
And she goes by her second name.
Yeah, preferably Zona Hester.
Yes.
Zona Hester Shue. Pretty young bride, married to a handsome young man. Everything seemed hunky-dory. Her handsome young husband was
Erasmus Stribling Trout Shue.
There you go, Mike, right there.
And this was in Greenbrier County, West Virginia. That's where the Greenbrier comes from, by the way.
Now, shortly after their marriage back in 1897, I believe they're only married for a few months.
Right. Met him in
that-
1896 and married in 1897.
Okay. Zona tragically died. It was initially thought that she had died from complications of childbirth or perhaps from heart failure, but that's where the mystery began. Mike, it is well known, well, I should say it was well known among family members and friends that Zona's mother, Mary J. Hester, was not a fan of Mr. Erasmus Stribling Trout Shoe, who went by the name of Edward. So let's just call him Edward. It's easier to say Edward instead of Erasmus Stribling.
Yes.
So you can call me Ed or Erasmus Stribling. What am I going to choose? I'll say Ed.
Yeah, Ed or Erasmus.
Erasmus Stribling? Okay.
Mary Erasmus.
And okay, I'm repeating myself, but her mom was not very fond of Mr. Stribling. Mr. Ed. Yeah, Mr. Ed.
She did not
the
like
horse.
Mr. Ed.
Not the horse, but Mr. Edward Trout.
Really
Shoot. Thank you. That was a very good Mr. Ed impersonation, and you're totally sober. So.
I am Mr. Ed.
Wow.
Anyway, go ahead.
Woo!
Oh, that was a good Ric Flair you did right there.
Oh, was it? Hey, it's his birthday today, by the way. That's that's kind of coincidental that you said that and that I did that. Maybe the spirit of Ric Flair just burst through me somehow.
Well, he's like 90 years old now, and he has a roadmap for a forehead.
He does. Oh my gosh, I know.
Like Dusty Rhodes, his forehead was just a mess.
Yep. Those bladers, man. They have those old school wrestlers. All their foreheads just
and cauliflower ears.
Yep.
Anyways,
so yeah, we're already off track. This is what we're all about in Paranormal
all
Zone.
over the place.
we tend to go on rants and
talking about a murdered woman. We end up talking about Ric Flair.
Yeah. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah. Another one, Mike, another wrestler whose forehead was absolutely disgusting was Bruiser Brody. I don't know if you're familiar with that name. He unfortunately was died in a still basically unsolved murder mystery, but that's another thing altogether. Okay, back to the story at hand. Zona Hester Shue was discovered dead in her house by a young boy who was a neighbor. I'm not exactly sure the exact distance, how far away he was, but the story goes that Edward had actually left his shop at the blacksmith, and he went to said neighbor's house, and he just happened to say, "Oh, hello, son." It was the son of the house there. I don't know exactly where the parents were at the time. He said, "Do you mind going back to our house and checking on Zona and see if she wants anything in town while I go to town?" So, yeah, that's, okay, I guess that's kind of suspicious. It's right away. It's like, why don't you go ask her?
Right.
You're her damn husband. So the son did such thing, and he, as I mentioned, he discovered her dead body, unfortunately. Now, we have to backtrack a little bit here. Going back to the dislike that Zona's mother, Mary, had for Mr. Erasmus. I keep on saying I was going to call him Ed, and I call him Erasmus all the time. I need to make up my mind. She was not aware of the fact. So this has nothing to do with her dislike of Mr. Ed. She didn't know they already had a criminal record before
going back couple of marriages.
Right. And his prior marriages had ended mysteriously. Well,
his first marriage was very he was very cruel, reportedly, to her, and then also to the second one, and she ended up dying of mysterious circumstances.
Absolutely.
I believe.
I read that he claimed that she died from a brick falling and hitting her on the head when he was doing construction
with
work.
his hand attached to it.
Right. Well, he was saying that it fell from he was doing construction work on the roof or whatever. He was doing something, and the brick accidentally fell and killed her. So, and I think the wife prior to that had divorced him after Ed just got up and left. And so, and he left her. Did he have a family? I we'll figure that out here in a second. Here, I'm gonna.
Yeah, I don't recall.
Produce from some of these facts here while we banter back and forth. Yeah, unhappily married twice before. Yep, the first wife divorced him after he abandoned her and their child. So yes, he did have a family. And here it is again. The second died when he claimed to have accidentally dropped a brick on her head while he was making repairs on the roof. And that was in Pocahontas County. So the only thing we really know for sure, besides the mysterious circumstances of his prior marriages, is that Mary J., the mother, did not have warm feelings towards Ed. And so her daughter Zona, naturally being smitten and going against her mother's wishes, essentially eloped with Mr. Ed, wearing which coincidentally she eloped wearing the same high-colored burgundy dress that her husband would end up dressing her in after her death, her mysterious death. Now, this all started to go down on the morning of on the morning of her death in 1897, according to the Monroe Watchman. I've said this already, but Shue left his blacksmith's shop and went to a nearby house, asking the son to see if Mr. Shue wanted to send to the store for anything. Mrs. Shue wanted to send to the store for anything, and the boy, like I said earlier, found her lying on the floor dead. Now, it says the Greenbrier Independent later would report from Trout Shue's trial for murder that after Dr. Knapp was sent to the house and unable to resuscitate Zona, this is Edward Shue, requested the doctor to, quote-unquote, make no further examination of the body, that he assisted in dressing the body, and in doing so put around the neck a high collar and a large veil, several times folded and tied in a large bow under the chin, that the head was also observed by a number of the witnesses to be very loose upon the neck and would drop from side to side when not supported. And that's what Dr. Knapp wrote down. Okay, let's think about that for a second. How suspicious would you be immediately, Mike? I mean, come on. This husband was acting all distraught and emotional, and he's like, I'm not going to let you examine my wife,
Well, that's very suspicious, yes.
At the same time, you understand it's like, okay, you're emotional, but you have to still let the professionals do their job.
Right. You get the thought of there's something trying to be hidden or distracted from at that point.
Specifically aimed at the neck region.
Right.
Those descriptions were fairly, blunt. How the witnesses are surrounding the body noted that her head was essentially just bobbing back and forth, very flimsy, Mike, nothing to support it.
And that can go either way.
That kind of gave me the chills just thinking about that for some reason.
I have moved and repositioned bodies shortly after death, and especially before there's like any rigor mortis or anything.
Right.
Everything is pretty floppy.
Well, sure. Okay.
I mean, in general, I like a few weeks ago, or like the last week I worked before I've been off and not working because of my ailments. There was a man that I had to hold him on his side, and his legs just flopped off the bed. I mean, I don't want to get into graphic details, but
no, that's important.
And then it's just, it's just so everything's so loose, and there's no musculature that's working to keep anything from just being floppy, but like somebody's head would be that way. But, if it's extremely floppy, like, well, there's something definitely not right there. Something more than just, lack of muscles working, keeping something in place.
Right.
Yeah, it would be much more, floppy.
No, I understand. no, I get it. And it's not, that's very interesting, Mike. I mean, that's important to what, that's relatable to this, what we're talking about tonight. So
sure.
I'm glad that you brought that up, even though it is disturbing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Yes. And that man, he would not stop urinating.
Well,
after death.
Okay, talk about too much information right now, so that's fine though. I mean,
that happens.
I know it does. I know it does, and I'm not mocking the poor man's death by any means. But
neither am I. I have great respect, and I guess if I did have great respect, I wouldn't even be talking about this. So carry on.
Very true. Very true. That is very. Are you wrestling with your dog right now, or what's
nope.
happening? Oh, you're just being. You seem jittery. But that's fine. That's okay. Mike muted his mic. He's yelling at his dog. He's beating his dog right now, everybody. I'm going to report Mike. No. I'm kidding.
The dog was trying to eat Mary's shoe off of her foot.
Speaking of shoes, man.
Yes, let's get back on track here.
So anyways, Zona was buried with no charges made against her husband. Now, that's when it starts getting really, really interesting. Zona's mother, Mary, said that her daughter had appeared to her after her death and told her what had really happened. Now, what am I saying by her daughter appeared to her after her death? Well, just that. Her mother claims to have been visited by the spirit of her daughter in her dreams. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times. Mike, we'll pause right there. Longtime listeners, ding, ding, dingy, ding, ding, know that we are very, very open to the idea of sleep being a method of communication with those who have passed on. Whether it be on their end or on our end as to who initiates it. I guess I don't know about that one, but I'm pretty sure you believe in communication with the dead through your dreams, right, Mike?
Oh, absolutely.
Now, briefly, why do you think that is a legit possibility? What pops you into your brain when you think of dreams and communicating with those on the other side through your dreams?
That's a time that your body and your mind are at their relaxed state, and there's nothing else cluttering your mind when you're awake, and it's just an easy, clear passageway into communication, I believe.
Okay, no, that's well said. Short and sweet. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, cripes, people claim to astral project through their dreams. You know?
Oh, absolutely. I believe in that as well.
I mean, who says that we really aren't? Who's to say that all of our crazy ass dreams aren't legit happening? You know?
Yeah. And it could be a doorway into another dimension during that time, then that you're experiencing another dimension.
Yeah. No,
that would be awesome.
It's baffling and fascinating at the same time. Now, Zona's mother said that her daughter appeared to her in her dreams and told her what really happened. Mary told her account to the county prosecuting attorney. Now, he didn't initially dismiss her, but asked for names of people who might have more information. When the prosecutor spoke to Dr. Knapp and learned how the husband had prevented a full examination of the body, acting all weird and overly emotional. I mean, we get it. Like dramatically emotional to the point of being defensive, not letting the doctor examine certain areas of the body. Dr. Knapp then pursued having Zona's body exhumed. And eventually that occurred, and eventually an autopsy was performed. Her neck was found broken, her windpipe crushed, evidence of a murder by strangulation.
That's right.
Now, at Trout Shoe's trial, this is what Mary Hester testified. She said, quote unquote, "It was no dream," according to the Greenbrier Independent. She came back and told me that he was mad, that she didn't have no meat cooked for supper.
There ain't no meat.
There ain't no meat.
How can you have any pudding if you don't eat your meat?
Don't have no meat. But the second night she appeared, she told me that her neck was squeezed off at the first joint, and it was just as she had told me. Now, it took the jury only an hour to return a verdict of murder in the first degree, recommending Shue to be confined to the state penitentiary for the rest of his life. This is another quote. "Though the evidence was entirely circumstantial, the verdict meets general approval," the newspaper reported. And so on and so forth. Goes on to say that Shue died in the 3rd year of his sentence from the flu epidemic of 1900. And no one from his family came to claim his body.
They knew what kind of a jerk he was.
What type of a person he was.
And also, when he was first put in prison, there was actually a lynch mob that was formed that was going to actually come and get him out of jail and hang him, but they were stopped before they could do it.
Just think about those two things that we just said right there. This person was obviously renowned for being an ass, like you said.
Right.
And it's no coincidence that people were gathering to take him to his maker. I don't know what you want to call it, civilian justice. I don't know how you want to call that, but
Vigilante.
vigilantes, exactly. I did find an article, Mike, that I find fascinating to read just because it's the original article, the newspaper article that was reporting
Really?
about this from back in the day. I found this on westvirginiaexplorer.com. The preface is as such, the account of the Greenbrier ghost, as the specter of the late Zona Hester Shue came to be known, has been retold time and time again, and we're retelling it again right now because it's no secret that this is a very well known case.
Right.
Mike and I are diving into it, and we're not breaking any ground. But as is the case in most such tales, the earliest versions are often the most true to form. Thus, we've endeavored to reprint here the story as it appeared in the New York Sunday American not long after the death of his antagonist. So this story appeared in 1910, actually, so 13 years after the account. But still, man, that's fairly fresh, you know?
Right. Exactly.
Not too many, I don't know, what do you want to say? How do you want to describe it? Discrepancies probably could have been conjured up by pure imagination by that point. It still has been 13 years, but that's a hell of a lot fresher than what would be if we reported on it now in 2022.
Right.
Exactly. You would think. So, do you mind if I read a little bit of this, Mike?
No, I'm intrigued.
Are you intrigued, or am I boring you to death?
No. You never bore me, Patrick, as far as you know.
Well, as far as I know, right. I'm not going to read the whole damn thing, but it's
I definitely want to hear it, and I'm sure that our listeners would like to think so too.
Okay, this is the article from 1910. Possibly the most startling and corroborative evidence that mediums could offer to prove their contention of conversation with the dead is the conviction of Edward S. Shue in Greenbrier County Circuit Court at Lewisburg in 1897 for the slaying of his wife. And there's a picture of his lovely young bride, Zona Hester Shue. Yeah, when they reference Edward as a good-looking man, he was a strapping young lad. Looks like Zona Hester was a very beautiful young woman, had their whole lives in front of them, and then this asshole decided to just be nuts. That's not part of the article.
Right. That's just a personal observation.
Yeah, right. And it goes on as such. The state's case against this defendant, an apparent peaceable village blacksmith of the 1890s, was based entirely upon circumstantial evidence that was dreamed by Mrs. Shue's aged mother, while sleeping in her rustic home 14 miles away from the scene of the killing on the other side of a Sewell Mountain. I like how even in 1910 it says here, ghosts stories are legend. Dreams have come down through the centuries, but little credence is given their visions. But nobody has ever actually proved, with the possible exception of Mrs. Mary J. Hester, mother of the slain Mrs. Shue, that the dead can come back in some form and communicate with the living. Mrs. Hester, beyond any semblance of a doubt, is an exception. So right away you get the vibe that they believed the story in 1910. It's totally believable. There's no doubt about it. Yep, ghost came back and told Mrs. J. Hester about her daughter's slaying.
Well, isn't that like the height of, or the beginning of spiritualism and just great belief in spirits and ghosts and the paranormal. It was just exploding at that time. So I'm sure that might have had something to do with it too, that they hear these things that are recent history to them, and they really want to believe that.
Oh, no, 100% agree with that one, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have another question I want to throw at you.
Okay.
And we like doing this on the Paranormally Zone, too, because I love putting Mike on the spot, and he always comes up with great answers. So he always comes up with great answers.
Always? Oh, I don't know about always.
Well, come on. You got to toot your own horn every now and then, Mike.
We shall see.
Okay, the question that just popped into my feeble mind goes as such. If this is true, if the spirit, if you want to call the spirit of Zona Hester Shue came back, revealed herself to her mother to explain to her that she was in fact murdered, She didn't die of a miscarriage. She didn't die of heart failure. She was murdered by her brutal husband. Why do it through dreams as opposed to, maybe appearing as a full-bodied apparition, leaving clues for her mother, physical clues, any number of things, leading her subconsciously to the site, any number of things. I have a feeling I know where your answer is going to go on this one, but I want your reaction to that question, Mike, your thoughts. Why would it be through a dream that she would appear to her mother?
You repeat the question, Bob?
I can, yes. Why
No,
would...
never mind. Well, maybe that was the easiest conduit at that point.
That's
maybe
what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Maybe the energy that Zona had, the energy that she had was more easily put in that direction. And maybe there is something that her mother had, that she knew about her mother, where that would be an easier way to communicate, that maybe her mother was a great believer in dreams and their meanings. It could go a lot of different ways. I think
I gotcha on that one.
The easiest route of communication at that point is possibly an answer.
Well, I like what you said about energy, though. Like it's almost as if, for whatever reason, she didn't have the power to summon the energy required to appear as an apparition, right?
Or maybe she didn't want to freak out her mother that bad.
It could be as easy as that.
Exactly.
And all this sincerity, Mike, and like you said too, it could be as simple as she knew that her mother was a hardcore believer in the meaning of dreams. So she's, this is
you could put out a lot of theories and a lot of
right
thoughts and ideas, but yeah.
Oh yeah, that we could go down a total mind-boggling rabbit hole on.
And sometimes we do.
Sometimes we do. Yeah.
We're due for another episode of something like that.
Some head scratchers. I wouldn't.
Some deep dives.
I wouldn't mind pulling out the old head scratcher. We haven't done that for a long time, Mike. It's like, was she? If she in her spirit form, in her ethereal form, is she only able to visit her mom through her subconscious state of dreaming in deep sleep? She doesn't have the energy to do so any other way. Is she aware that she's doing this? Is she aware that she is passed on, or does she think that she is still in the physical realm and conversing with her mother? I mean, my gosh, there's so many different possibilities about this.
Maybe she didn't even realize as a spirit even that she was communicating through her dreams. She, as far as she knew, she was just talking to her mother, and that's just the way her mother received it.
Yep. That, we're on the same line there. We're on the same line of thinking. Now back briefly to this is a very long article, so I'm not going to read all of it because it's really long. Don't let me forget, Mike, before we wrap this up, I want to read there is like a plaque commemorating Zona Hester.
That's right. I read that. That's pretty fascinating.
It's very, very fascinating. Actually, you know what? Let's read that plaque. I encourage everyone to go read this article, the original article back in 1910. You can find it on wvexplorer.com. That's West Virginia Explorer.com. The article is listed as the full tale. This internet article is listed as the full tale of West Virginia's remarkable Greenbrier ghost. It was published September 14th, 2021, so not that long ago. It's absolutely fascinating to read. I love reading old newspaper articles, Mike. It's fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this is the plaque, and what is inscripted on said plaque. Roadside marker commemorating the Greenbrier ghost. Standing alongside U.S. Highway 60, Sam Black Church. Says here, Greenbrier ghost. Interred in nearby cemetery is Zona Hestershoe. Her death in 1897 was presumed natural until her spirit appeared to her mother to describe how she was killed by her husband, Edward. Autopsy on the exhumed body verified the apparition's account. Edward, found guilty of murder, was sentenced to the state prison. Only known case in which testimony from a ghost helped convict a murderer. So that's pretty. I need Mike to find before, again, another thing we need to do before we wrap it up on this topic. I wasn't sure if I agreed with you on that. You are probably right. It didn't sound correct to me, so I could very well be wrong about whether or not the ghost testimony was allowed in trial.
I had read a part where it said that it wasn't brought up.
Okay.
But it was just a brief little thing where it said that. But even so,
I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
No, even if it wasn't brought up in the trial, the ghost still had something to do with, the trial coming about because of the mother convincing the doctor to open it up again and do the exhumation and autopsy.
See, how I interpreted it is that the prosecutor was trying, when he was cross-examining Mary J. Hester, he was trying to stick to the facts of the case. He didn't want to talk about the ghost because he was afraid that would make her sound basically crazy.
Right. Well, and what I read might have just been another way that they explained that, and didn't, you know what I mean? I could have read a totally different article, but instead of it saying that whenever it was brought up, he shot it down, where what I read was that it wasn't brought up in the trial, meaning the same thing, only worded differently. Possibly, I don't know, but yeah, yours makes more sense.
I also want to mention that the coroner initially listed the cause of death as everlasting faint.
Really, like every death is. That means nothing.
What the hell, everlasting faint?
Should Google that. Everlasting faint. That sounds like a really cool name for a band.
I was just going to say that. We're everlasting faint. We'll be here all week. Man, I really want to find that now, Mike.
Yeah.
Let's see here. The Greenbrier Ghost. I know this is great for the listeners. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
We're at 40 minutes. Mike, let's take a brief pause. Let's come back. Let's wrap up the Greenbrier Ghost case. We'll clear up the facts, and we'll dive into one last take on the Minnesota Iceman. How's that sound, buddy?
Hit the OLT on the Minnesota Iceman.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. All right, hold on, everybody. We're going to take a brief time traveling excursion. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Okay, we have returned after yet another successful time traveling excursion. Mike, yes. Unfortunately, I think I sound like an arrogant asshole when I say this. I think I was more correct. I think closer to being correct when it comes to the mention of the ghosts.
Okay,
you were
more righter.
But you were also right because the prosecution, technically speaking, they never brought up the ghosts because they, as I mentioned briefly, they didn't want the jury or anyone to think that Mary Hester was nuts, essentially, and they wanted to stick to the facts of the case. It was Shu's defense team that kept bringing up the ghost story because they were trying to do just that.
Exactly. Sure.
But the thing is, Mary Hester was so convincing in her testimony that her story never wavered. And everyone bought into the story anyways. The community essentially, again, Mike, as you said, it was a time where I don't want to say it was more common to believe in ghosts or not back then as it is now. I guess I don't know. But they were very, very open to that being a real possibility. So defense, their tactics backfired on them. And
Right.
so we were both right.
Okay.
Let's leave it
Well,
at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because you can't accept that you could have possibly been wrong.
No, I didn't.
Is that so wrong?
Is that so wrong? I just want to be loved. Is that so wrong? So, anyways. Yeah, right here. The tactic. I'll just read this whole thing right here.
Okay.
Blah, 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 blah. The trial began June 22nd, 1897. Mary Jane Hester is a star witness. The prosecutor confined his questioning to the known facts of the case, skirting the issue of her ghostly sightings. Perhaps hoping to prove her unreliable, Shu's lawyers, on the other hand, questioned Mrs. Hester extensively about her daughter's visits on cross-examination. The tactic backfired when Mrs. Hester would not waver in her account, despite their intense badgering. As the defense had introduced the issue, the judge found it difficult to instruct the jury to disregard the story of the ghost, and many people in the community seemed to believe in it anyhow. Consequently, Shu was found guilty of murder on July 11th. Ooh, what a day. That's my birthday. And sentenced to life in prison. But technically, the Greenbrier ghost was never mentioned by the prosecution and played no part in the case against Shu, technically speaking.
And that could have been what I read, and I interpreted it in my own way.
Well, no, I think you were right. Maybe I wasn't.
Okay.
Maybe I wasn't listening to you. I was probably ignoring you.
That can't happen.
That can't happen. Well, I guess, Mike, we kind of touched all bases, the main points of this bizarre, crazy, and fascinating story.
Yes.
What are your final thoughts on it? I mean,
I think it's awesome. It's a ghost story that would be a great campfire story to tell, and something that is very feasible.
True. No, I gotcha. Yep. I gotcha.
And you cannot forget to read the plaque.
No, do not. If you're happen to be near the area, definitely get a good shot of that plaque. Get a picture. Stand next to it. Take a picture.
Yeah. Did you read what was on the plaque?
I did, Mike. I did read that.
Okay. Yeah. See, that's how much attention I pay to you, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
No, I remember you doing that now. Kind of.
See, now I lost my train of thought again. I had a great question I was going to throw to you.
And I cut you off.
Well, you didn't cut me off. You're just talking over me like an asshole, but that's fine. No. This isn't like the only case that is known of, I don't want to say ghostly interference, but basically of ghosts coming back to solve their own murders, but it's something that is so intriguing, Mike. I mean, let's talk about that very briefly. Let's talk about why something like that would happen and why it could be legit. I don't want to take any thunder away from you when I throw the question over to you, but I have to say that the energy there, the disappointment, the sadness, just the overwhelming emotions of having your life taken away, and the person who took your life is seemingly getting away with it scot-free, would be motivation enough to stick around and somehow convey your message to anyone who would listen to possibly help you out, right?
Yeah, it's that classic unfinished business, that a lot of spirits have that keeps them here until it is finished. She was not going to be, murdered and justice not being taken care of.
Justice not being served. She wasn't going to sit idly by, no matter what dimension she was in, right?
Exactly. So, that's that would cause enough emotion for that energy to come through and do what they had to do.
Now I have to ask you this, and I have to, because the question just popped in my brain, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I have to ask you this. Now, you do not buy into the notion that all, I guess, ghosts, entities, spirits, whatever you want to call them, are remaining here. I don't want to say on Earth, because they're not technically on Earth or in whatever dimension they're in, you do not buy necessarily into the idea that they are all here because of emotional distress and because of as you said, unfinished business and just a total negative aura of, surrounding them that's not allowing them to move on. You don't buy into that, right?
Not everyone is like that. I mean, what if there are some that are happy ghosts that are here because that's where they were at happiest in their life? You do hear of that.
Okay, I was going to say, elaborate briefly on what a quote unquote happy ghost would be and why it would choose to be here. You kind of briefly said it already, but elaborate a little bit.
Well, they're doing things that made them happiest when they're alive, and maybe that makes them not ready to pass over, even though they could be passing over to a much better place. It's something that they've been used to for so long, and at their happiest.
If there are happy ghosts, Mike, who choose to be here, and I'm not saying this in a mean way, are they doing this out of their own ignorance that they still haven't learned that there are better things past that existence? You know what? Do you know what I mean by that? I mean, they are past their physical existence, but they're choosing to hang around here instead of moving on to whatever it is after this.
Yeah.
Is it because they are afraid that they know what they know, they enjoy what they enjoy, and they're going to, I'm sticking around here because, like you said, Mike, I'm happy and I don't want to risk it. Basically, I'm content.
Yeah, that could be afraid of what might be beyond.
Mm-hmm.
I had a good answer, and it just totally farted out of my brain.
Well, that happens. It does.
It's lack of alcohol.
No, it is not. It is not.
No.
It's ignorance sounds like such a mean-spirited word, but it really isn't. It's just it can be, but if you're ignorant about a subject, doesn't mean that you aren't capable of understanding it. It's just that it hasn't been taught to you, essentially.
Right. Sure.
So perhaps those who are here, they're choosing to stay here because they are ignorant as to what lies beyond what is the next realm of existence for them. The fear of the unknown perhaps exists in the next life as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Maybe they live their lives as atheists and only believing that once you die, there's nothing.
Great point.
They have died, but I'm still here. But what if I pass on to the next dimension or whatever's next?
Yeah.
Then all things blink out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's
a great
possibility.
Point. Very great point. I agree with that one too, Mike. Well, okay. Again, long story short, wrapping it up, Mike, you buy the Greenbrier ghost story as it is reported.
Yes, I can easily buy it. Whether it was an actual ghost happening or whether it was the mother that cooked all this up to have it reopened.
Thank you for bringing that up. I totally forgot about that. Thank you for mentioning that, because it was mentioned. We would not be serving this story justice. It was mentioned that, we did tell everyone listening that the mother could not stand Erasmus Stribling.
Right.
So the notion has been tossed about. Did she frame him?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you are someone who doesn't believe in anything paranormal like this occurring, the first question that arises to them will be, well, how the hell did she know that her neck was busted? How was she able to describe it as such?
Mm-hmm.
Was she in on it? Did she hire someone to do this to frame Erasmus? There's so many crazy stories out there, but
you can go in many different directions.
But you're leaning towards the paranormal and
well, of course, that's just
justice
who
being
I
served. Well, as far as justice being served as well.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay.
And this also was such a popular
Good tree.
subject
That's
that
a nice tree. That's a nice tree.
in later years, there's actually this. I didn't even catch what you said.
I said that was a nice tree.
Tree.
Poplar.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So
Bum, 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 bum.
anyway.
Oh, yeah. Okay, go over.
This story was actually, I believe I read that it was made into 3 different stage plays even.
And a movie.
And a movie. That's right. Yeah. So and I was going to say earlier on that this is the kind of story that movies are made of, which it actually was.
It was.
Yeah. So
I'm with you, Mike. I think this is a legit occurrence. I buy it.
yeah, I agree.
So that's not a beer can. What are you drinking now? Another Coke.
Yes. Another Diet Cola.
Yeah. Wow. And he's drinking it with his pinky finger up.
Yeah, I did put my pinky up, didn't I?
Like a gentleman.
That's the English in me.
That's an English gentleman.
This is British.
Yeah. Well, that's actually his carbnoitis that's setting in right now. or what I called earlier today, carbonatoid, or I don't know.
Carbonatoid, yeah.
I can't remember what the hell I called it. So carbonatoid.
Carbaritis.
Yeah. Well, we're all wishing you the best. So, we encourage everyone, if you're interested in the story, to do your own further deep dives into it.
Yeah.
It's we basically covered the basics. That sounded redundant, but
We basically have.
yeah, we basically have. Hope you enjoyed it. Mike, moving on to one last take. Are you ready, buddy?
I'm ready.
Are you ready? As you called it earlier today, OLT, because that's how I texted to you because I'm tired of typing out one last take.
Yes, we shall call it OLT.
Okay, OLT. All right.
OLT.
Oh, sounds good. Now this one last take has a personal connection, Mike. And I wanted you to share with us your stories, your personal connection with the Minnesota ICEMAN. It's utterly fascinating to me. Please let us in on your personal experiences.
From what I understand, the Minnesota ICEMAN, I think it was 1969. I believe I saw something written somewhere about 1969 where the Minnesota ICEMAN actually went on tour.
It did.
And went all over the country being displayed up on a stage where you would have to walk up one side these stairs and you could surround this container of the frozen Iceman,
right,
and peruse it from head to toe and then walk down the stairs on the other end.
That sounds kind of kinky when you think about it. It's like, woofda.
Yeah. So it's, for me, I actually had went to see this Iceman at one of these things. It was like 1974 or something like that.
Okay.
So, not very many years past the time that this began its tour, which is kind of interesting too. It's kind of cool that, then that's the kind of thing where at that time there was all kinds of traveling displays of weird things and
do you remember
whatever that.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but do you remember exactly where you were? Were you like at a mall or a?
Oh yeah, it was the big mall that was.
Did you
actually
say that?
hadn't?
Did you say that already and I wasn't paying attention?
Oh no, I didn't.
Okay.
West Acres Mall in Fargo.
Okay. Okay, gotcha.
The mall itself hadn't been there for very long at this time, and I remember they advertised that this Iceman was going to be on display there. Go and see it. I think I paid like $0.25 to go up.
Ooh.
And something really minuscule anyway. But as a little kid, $0.25,
that's quite a
at
bit.
that time, yeah. So I remember the excitement that I had. I mean, the excitement of being in line, the excitement to getting to the point where they took your money, the excitement of being the next person to get on that first step up to see the Iceman, and I knew what Bigfoot was. I knew what all that stuff was from, through my dad and whatever. So I was excited. But it seemed like it took forever. This line, I was, a lot of people wanting to get up there to see this thing.
You know what this is sounding like, Mike? This sounds like Ralphie in A Christmas Story waiting to see Santa.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Talk about another Iceman.
Yeah. But I remember finally getting up there and moving close enough and getting closer to this thing where you could look over into this it's this glass topped caskety looking thing and full of ice, but you could see the Iceman through this ice. But you know how ice, when it's frozen, there's parts you can't really see through, and
Sure.
so you can only see certain parts of the body. And
There's places that are clear and places that are
Yep.
opaque, so to speak.
and I remember starting at this thing's head, and I was staring right down above the head, looking down at this face, and you could see.
How were you feeling? Did it creep you out at all, or were you
No,
just fascinated?
I was just fascinated and excited, and I loved it. I mean, seeing this face, like the eyes, and it was still not like totally clear, but you could definitely make out the eyes and the mouth and whatever. And then you'd slowly move your way down, as people would come up and, look at other, looking at it as you're moving down the body. I think you might have been able to see one testicle and a piece of the penis too. I'm not sure.
Now that's worth the price of admission right there.
No, I don't remember that. I was trying to be funny.
Fail.
Funny without alcohol. It's kind of
Fail.
hard. But anyway,
come on with enough with the lack of alcohol references.
Yeah, no,
it's
hey,
okay.
I'm doing pretty good.
It's fine.
But you could see the hair in certain areas, and it looked just this thick, coarse hair. And the leg and everything. And then I remember getting towards the end of it, just before being done looking at it, before the stairs going down, and I could see the feet, and I got such a clear vision and look at the toe, like the big toe on one of the feet. And I tell you, it didn't look like any wax figure. It didn't look like anything that was, badly put together. This looked like a freaking big toe of some kind of a living creature.
Was it a curly, thick yellow toe?
A thick yellowish black fungal toe?
Fungal ridden yellow thick over.
No, it was very,
ingrown.
very large. Large. The feet were large. I would say it was comparable to if you took this foot and what I could see of it, and you made a plaster cast of it, you'd have like a Bigfoot cast.
Okay.
Of a footprint.
Now, did you have a time limit for the amount for how long you could look at it?
Not that I remember. I just remember kind of, you had to move along with the line, and they did keep the line moving fairly. But I mean, I had plenty of time to look at every bit of it that I could see.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't feel rushed or anything. And then I remember being done and walking down those stairs and just being like, this is something I'll never forget.
Well, yeah,
kind of feeling.
And you obviously haven't.
Never have. Right.
And there were a ton of people there, like you said, right? Just a super long.
A lot of people.
And you paid $0.25.
I believe it was something like that. I can't say for sure, but I know it was something like that.
How did you get to the mall?
That part I don't remember.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, I could have. Well, I bet it was my friend and I probably rode our bikes there.
I was going to say, because you didn't live too far from the mall area.
That time, no.
I believe.
I mean, it was a pretty good bike ride, but still not bad.
Not bad at all, especially for a young kid. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Bike rides are nothing.
Yeah.
So it's something that is just absolutely just engraved in your mind.
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
And did you walk away a believer, or did you walk away wondering what the hell it was?
No, I feel like I was a believer.
And how was it exactly advertised, Mike? Was it advertised as like something unknown, or was it advertised as like some sort of humanoid creature? I
think it was like a whole sideshow type advertising of the Minnesota ICEMAN,
right,
just
sure.
just really hyping up this this creature that
Yeah.
was found, and
No specifics, just basically essentially what it is. This
I
figure
think so.
in
Yeah,
a block
if
of
I remember
ice.
right.
Yeah. Which makes sense. I mean, that's
Yeah.
how else would they
I mean,
advertise it?
yeah. I mean, it's a carnival sideshow type thing. They're gonna hype it as much as they can, and they're gonna advertise it like that. And so, but yeah.
What a great memory, though, man.
Oh, it is a great memory. Kind of like the memory I have when I went to the old Fargo Theater and saw Star Wars when it first came out.
It just doesn't leave you, does it?
Yeah. I like rubbing that in once
Shut
in a while.
up. Just stop. You haven't even watched the Book of Boba Fett yet, and I'm ashamed.
No, I
of
haven't,
you.
but I will.
I don't know about you. I really don't
Eventually.
know. Yeah, exactly. It could be.
I finally got into The Mandalorian.
You were pretty much on top of that, though. I mean,
Yeah.
you weren't too far behind. This is the Book of Boba Fett was released 2 months ago, and you haven't even sniffed at it yet.
Yeah.
So I'm ashamed of you. So get on it. Or not.
Or not.
It's up to you, man. I do recommend it, though. I'm going to read a little bit here just for some facts. And don't worry, boys and girls. I'll fly through as fast as I can. But I have to show my cool new book to Mike.
American Monsters,
American Monsters, A History of Monster Lore, Legends, and Sightings in America by Miss Linda S. Godfrey. She has a lot of books in this field.
Possible guest for the show?
Oh, hell. Great. Good idea. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Reach out to Miss Linda S. Godfrey, one of America's foremost experts on mystery creatures.
There you go. We need that.
And so this is one of those awesome, like, kind of traveling companion books that just have every chapter is about different legends and supposed legit creatures and whatnot. And
That's like I have that book, Ghosts of Minnesota.
Kind of similar.
We should start picking places like that out of that to go to.
Oh God, Mike, there's so many places. Oh shit. Hey, thank you, Mike. Because that reminded me I have to do the cheap but necessary Patreon plug. Man, we had a great time investigating the allegedly haunted school in Babbitt, Minnesota. Just this last weekend, me and my brother Joe, a sometimes guest host on the Paranormally Zone. Mike, unfortunately, could not join us, but he did join us via FaceTime.
That did not work.
Well, it did. It did work.
Oh, yeah, partially.
I still have to go through it and see if I can edit out some of that buzz crap out of there. But
that's right.
I will definitely share at least some of it where we can hear you clearly, Mike, just so you're there,
Yeah.
And we are going to be making plans soon, Mike, for you to come back.
Yes. That is a plan.
Come with me back up to Babbitt, Minnesota, and we can check out the school again because Joe obviously is a member of the faculty there, and he can get us in there on basically whenever we want. I'm not sure about allowing us to spend a night in the school, Mike, but we'll see.
Sure.
We'll see.
Well, even if we can't, that's still worth it.
And without giving anything away, a lot of awesome crap has been added to a lot of awesome stuff has been added to our Patreon page, including, I don't know, Mike, I'm not giving anything away, but my golly gee willikers, that two audio clips that I shared with you on our last Patreon exclusive.
Yes. Awesome.
You think it's legit
paranormal. It's unmistakable. Yeah. And that is all in Babbitt, Minnesota, not to be confused with Billy Babbitt, played by Brad Dourif on One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, he met a tragic death in that movie.
Oh, it was horrible. But he had a good time, and he wasn't stuttering until Nurse Ratchet came in.
Flippin' Nurse Ratchet. Good Lord. And then that's what made old Jack lose his mind after after that happened. Anyways.
Oh, and Will Sampson. Oh, the ultimate.
Terrific movie, man. Christopher Lloyd, yes. Danny DeVito. Anyways, we're ranting a little bit here.
Anyway.
Go check out our Patreon page. If you enjoy the podcast, I guarantee you're going to love our Patreon page. I added 10 more episodes today, Mike. 10 more episodes.
There is stuff on there now that people are going to just be very happy to listen to.
Yeah, I definitely hope so. And every single ghost investigation that we are going to go on, which we have done so far within the last year, Mike, every little video, audio clip from said ghost investigations are going on our Patreon page.
Right.
You can join up for as little as $1 a month. You'll have access to all of our Patreon exclusive episodes. We do record episodes exclusively for Patreon, as well as access to the archives, all of our old episodes, hundreds of episodes from the Alternate Realm podcast, and Nonsensicast radio days are now available exclusively on our Patreon page.
And those are worth the price of admission alone.
Wow, that's so... man, it's so fun but weird to listen to those, man.
I can
really
imagine.
is.
I haven't.
Oh, Mike,
But-
you'd enjoy it, man. You'd
I know
enjoy
I
it.
would.
I mean, I not that long ago I posted. I believe it was the second time you were ever on the show. Back
Really?
on Nonsensicast radio days, I titled the episode "Talking Life After Death with the Ghost Hunter" because you were referred to fondly as the Ghost Hunter back in the day, and it's just so fun to listen to Bridget and I rant and rave with you. This was 2013, 2014. We're
Wow.
talking old episodes, but not only the super old ones, but all the way up into the name change to the Paranormally Zone from the Alternate Realm podcast. We had 300 episodes before the name change, the Paranormally Zone. All those are
Yep,
going to be
that's
made
right.
available on Patreon page, including video exclusive. All video, audio exclusive from our ghost investigations. Man, there's just so much good stuff on there. I can't even think of all the good stuff. Oh, you want to listen to all of our awesome interviews with paranormal celebrities? Chip Coffee, Jason Hawes, Grant Wilson, Amy Allen, on down the road, Andrea Perrin, Ron Moorhead, my gosh, every one of our... Amy Bruni, Adam Berry, Steve Gonzalez, Dustin Perry multiple times. The list goes on and on and on. Join our Patreon page because you can't find those anywhere else anymore. I have to say, Mike, as I texted to you, we're sacrificing downloads, streams, and views for the better of our Patreon page. I hope it's going to be worth it.
Yeah.
Anywho, give it a shot. We'd love to see you there for as little as $1 a month. Okay, Mike, the Minnesota Iceman. Now,
Which was actually originally known as a cyber sky creature.
The what?
Yep. Skabursky.
Oh, good Lord. Okay. The Sabursky creature.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't understand what you were saying there for a second.
Yeah.
Now, this is pulled from the few pages dedicated to the Minnesota Iceman in the book I mentioned, American Monsters by Linda S. Godfried. Godfrey. I have to read this verbatim to get my bearings as we go about. So bear with me, boys and girls. Okay, the Minnesota Iceman. As promised earlier in the book, well, we didn't promise it earlier because I didn't read that part. There was more to the letter written by Terry Cullen to Ivan Sanderson. Oh, Ivan Sanderson. We know the name Ivan Sanderson. Than the description of a small, hairy humanoids in the Mangrove Mountains in the Bahamas. Cullen was excited about what looked like a once living creature preserved in ice that was then being shown at shopping malls and state fairs across the Midwest. The frozen carcass wasn't easily identifiable as any known species, and despite its hair, it looked too similar to a human for viewers to be certain it was a mere animal. Ivan Sanderson had achieved a reputation for taking mysteries seriously, and Cullen wanted Sanderson to see it and give his opinion as to whether it was a real unknown creature. He went on to describe the creature he'd seen 15 months earlier for Sanderson. This was his description. He said, "The public is allowed to see the ventral side and the restricted lateral view." Does that sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
The creature is about 6'6" tall. Culler later said that the number 6 was a typo and that he meant 5 feet to 5 feet 3 inches tall. Possibly taller, as it is somewhat sprawled. So would you say it was closer to 5 feet or 6 feet, Mike?
Oh, boy.
I know it's tough to remember. I'm sorry. It's tough.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
The body is covered with a dark brown straight hair, through, though the palms of the hands, soles of the feet, and portions of the face are naked. The creature is a male, as shown by external genitalia.
See, I told you.
I told you. It is barrel-chested and seemingly well-muscled. The hands and feet are remarkably human, with no opposed great toe. It has a quite conspicuous navel. Do you remember the conspicuous?
Don't remember a belly button.
Cullen then added that the head seemed to have a sagittal crest, which is very common description of ape-like cryptids. Many Bigfoot was, He says the face has a rather broad nose. The eyes are closed.
I remember that.
The mouth is positioned, sick there, can't quite read what he's saying, of a painful grimace. The teeth are rather large. Canines seem to be entirely absent. And on the whole, the head and facial area is more hominid than pongid. Pongid. I'm not sure what I claimed. I don't know what pongid means. I don't mean to say I claim. I'm being honest. I don't know what pongid means.
I have no idea. Pongid?
Pongid. Look that up, Mike. P-O-N.
I'm going to look that up while you're.
P-O-N-G-I-D. Pongid. Now it goes on to say that Sanderson didn't take Cullen seriously enough to inspect the exhibit firsthand while in Minnesota. After talking to Cullen during a phone call on December 9th, 1968, Sanderson took some notes. Sanderson noted, of which... Oh, shit, I have to backtrack here. Sanderson wrote some notes, of which I have also a copy that read, an American is now touring local fairs with the body of an alleged ABSM frozen in a block of ice. This is reported to have been obtained by the Red Chinese who stole it from the Russians. The American got it from the Red Chinese in Hong Kong Harbor. It was apparently found by a Russian fishing trawler, which thought it was a seal frozen in the ice. Interesting. As the ice melted somewhat, a monkey-like form became visible. Cullen later said that the Russian ship was Japanese instead of Chinese, and eventually the man displaying the exhibit, Frank Hansen, gave an entirely different explanation of how he procured the curious thing, saying that he shot it in the woods of Minnesota. Then again, in 1968, the exotic tale of the Russian fishing trawler in Hong Kong Harbor was conveniently difficult to verify, and this remained the premise under which Sanderson and Dr. Bernard Heuvelmans agreed to examine the specimen. I'm almost done here. Bear with me. The exhibit's custodian, Frank Hansen. I wonder if Frank was there at the mall, Mike. I wonder if Mr. Frank Hansen was there.
I would imagine so, yeah.
Frank Hansen gave Sanderson and Heuvelmans several hours to examine the creature privately as best they could, obscured as it was in ice. After very close inspection, Sanderson seemed to think the strange animal was worth further study. So, I mean, that goes to show you right there. I mean, renowned researcher Ivan Sanderson, upon viewing it up close, still thought it was worth studying. So, we'll go with it. We'll leave it as that. The owner then stopped exhibiting the original frozen specimen and had at least 2 copies made of it to use as sideshow attractions. And this is where the whole thing goes askew, goes awry, because of those copies that were made. Because then we dive in, then we get into stories about the original being destroyed, the original being stolen, which one is which, and which one is on display now, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. It's a huge mess.
Discrepancies in the something on each different body, and and why that might be, and it gets pretty deep.
No, it does. It's a big mess. The original, whatever it was, disappeared into never-ending controversy. In the summer of 2013, one of the copies was acquired for exhibition by the Museum of the Weird in Austin, Texas.
Right, was sold on eBay.
Yes,
and went to that. Yeah,
good Lord.
So I am hoping that when I saw it, it was fairly early. I hope in the display of this thing. Well, I don't know how long it took though for it to get to one point to the next, but I'm hoping that I was there with the actual,
The real one.
original creature, but it's hard to say.
Yeah, there have been
But,
allegations that it was a hoax since day one, obviously. And,
Right, exactly.
just the fact that all those damn copies were made just makes it into such a
Yep.
just a
Yep.
I don't know how to want to describe it. It's just a coagulated mess. You know what I mean by coagulated? It's everything is just gelled together, but it doesn't make any sense. There's like all these little parts that are just going in each and every direction. No one knows.
Yeah. And an excuse
where
for
to
each
even
one of
begin.
them.
Right. There's an excuse for each one of them.
Yes. But pungid.
What? Yes. Tell me what pungid is.
It's a noun, a primate of a family, Pungidae, which comprises the great apes.
Well, there you go. Okay.
Pungidae.
Thank you, Mike.
Pungidae of the pungids is an obsolete primate taxon containing chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans. Interesting. How
did you pronounce that?
Orangutans. Anyway.
A couple of interesting tidbits that promoter and exhibitor, Frank Hansen, he stated that the Minnesota Iceman that he was putting on display was discovered in the region of Siberia and that he was acting simply as its caretaker for an absentee owner he described as a eccentric California millionaire. Now, the thing is, and what I just read said that the Iceman was procured originally. I want to go back to how it was supposedly captured. What did I say? Procured? I said it wrong.
Procured, something.
Something like that. Oh, don't do that. Please don't do that.
I was trying to pronounce it.
Please don't do that. I'm going to go to convulsions if you keep doing that.
I have worse noises that you can't stand.
I don't want to hear them. I don't ever want to hear them. Yeah, right here, procured. Yeah, because
procured.
Frank Hansen gave an entirely different explanation of how he procured the curious thing, saying that he shot it in the woods of Minnesota. Okay, that's what I read right here. Frank Hansen said he shot it in the woods of Minnesota.
Right.
Then I go here and read what I just read to you, where he said the Iceman was discovered in the region of Siberia.
Right.
Two quotes from the same promoter.
Mm-hmm. I call bullshit there somewhere. Actually, there was a description of it too, as one of the eyeballs were hanging out of the socket because of from being shot in the back of the head.
Good Lord. I don't like that. It says here that Canada customs officials were concerned that Hansen was actually transporting a cadaver and that the FBI was informed that the subject might potentially be a human murder victim. But the agency did not investigate simply due to many believing it was a hoax. Man, Mike, this Hansen guy, he sounds a lot like a lot of the Bigfoot hoaxers that we talked about.
Right, yeah.
Which is no joke here.
This would have been a great question for any of the Bigfoot aficionados that we have had or hope to have on.
Oh, sure. Oh, of course.
What their thoughts are on this whole thing.
Oh, we all know the name Charles Napier or John Napier. We know John Napier, proclaimed primatologist, a guy who's actually open to the idea of an actual Bigfoot existing.
Mm-hmm.
He was asked to investigate the Minnesota Iceman by the Smithsonian Institution. Very interesting. Hansen subsequently withdrew the Minnesota Iceman from public inspection. Go figure. Saying that the withdrawal was on orders from its California-based owner. Oh, sure it was, Mr. Hansen. Hansen later provided a new Iceman for exhibit, of course, one of the copies, described by observers as a latex model that was clearly different from the original. And Napier went on to basically say that the Smithsonian Institution is satisfied that the creature is simply a carnival exhibit made of latex, rubber, and hair. But then again, Hansen claims that was a copy, that the original was sent back to the owner, the eccentric California millionaire. And I'm just going to...
I believe that was actually found to be Tiny Tim.
Was it Tiny Tim? Oh, wow. So he has... I don't know. He has a cadaver of a Bigfoot floating in a tulip somewhere there, I guess.
Even in life, Tiny Tim looked like the cadaver of a... Anyway.
I don't know why I said floating through the tulips. I meant tiptoeing through the tulips. That was his song, right? Tiptoe.
I would rather float through tulips than tiptoe. That would be awesome.
What an awful song.
I would like that.
Awful song. I'm sorry for any Tiny
just
Tim
like a quarter of an inch above them, just so you could smell them, but you're floating over them. And every once in a while, dipping down so you're kind of in the tulips and then coming back up, all the while smelling tulips and getting the pollen on your back when you're floating above them.
I thought you were
Wouldn't that be great? I would love that.
I thought you were going to say all the while smelling Tiny Tim or something like that. I don't know.
No.
Oh, you don't like how Tiny
Well,
Tim
Tiny Tim could be playing in the background while this is all going on.
No, I don't want him. I don't want to hear him play ever.
That song freaks Mary out so bad.
I hate it.
So of course I play it.
No.
Every once in a while. Put it on.
It's terrible.
But she cannot stand it.
It's terrible. I agree with Mary 195% on that.
Yep.
That song should be obliterated from planet
Earth.
Yep. Well, Mike, in 2013, all those, everything just went to hell. I mean, it went to hell before that too, but all these claims of copies being made and, with Hansen saying that the original was sent back to the California owner, the millionaire eccentric California owner. Final thoughts, Mike. Let's do it. One last take. You have to choose real or fake. Talk about it for a little bit and how you lean one way and how you maybe lean the other before you give the final reveal. But yeah, let's talk about the Minnesota Iceman. One last take. Our final thoughts. Go ahead. Anytime.
Oh, you want me to start?
Yes.
Yeah, you know why? Is because he's starting to chug back some beer, so he wants time for that.
I'm thinking right now. So
actually, yeah. Even with my personal experience with seeing this thing, which to me at that time, I walked away from there, like I said, believing this 100%. And it's affected me even to this day. It's such a great memory. But at that time I didn't know anything about it except that of how they hyped it. To me it was real. I grew up for years, believing or leaning towards more still that it's just a fascinating possibility of being real even.
Sure. Of course.
Then, the more you learn about it and the more you still want to believe that it's real. There's just too many ifs. There's too many changes in the story. There's too many, so much, what's the word? I don't know. It's just, you hear, you feel.
Well, I'm not going to let you go on that one. What are you trying to say? What word are you trying to think of? I'm not trying to put you on the spot and make you feel silly, but you were going somewhere.
There's too many, too much. I'm sorry. I can't think of the word.
Like
it's one of those things that's right on the tip of your tongue.
So there's just too much. I don't want to put words in your mouth though, Mike. Are you trying to suggest that there's too much, I guess, for lack of a better term, evidence that simply proves it to be a hoax? Too much, not even circumstantial evidence. I mean, it's there. What people have studied, what people far more intelligent and educated than I or you, simply by looking at it, say, yeah, that's a fake. I mean, it's not saying that I'm not saying that you or I would not be able to look at it and say, yeah, that's fake, because I'm sure we would be able to. I'm sure our listeners would be able to.
Yeah, at this point, yeah.
I'm trying to find out what word you're thinking of, but That's fine. That's
well,
fine.
there's even with this promoter changing his story, the same guy, like having two different stories for
yes,
the same thing, and
how he came about it. So yeah, it's like, oh,
absolutely.
I shot it in Minnesota, and then the other one, it was found in Siberia. Well, which one is
exactly? And the fact that it was such a sideshow freak show. I mean, this guy is obviously just wanting to make money. He was making his little bits here out on his tour, but he was probably making plenty of money other ways with this thing. And it's just a sideshow. I mean, to me, it's fake to me.
There you go.
It's just like I said, a sideshow.
Does that hurt you to say that, Mike?
No, it didn't, because
good.
No matter how fake it is now, when I was a kid and the experience I had with it then, and what I took away from being there, with what I took with me when I left there, is always going to be there.
That's that everlasting memory and that feeling that's just always going to be there for you.
That feeling of a kid excited to see this Bigfoot, the Sasquatch, whatever. Mm-hmm. I'll always keep that with me, even if I know that it was fake or whatever.
So in a weird, bizarre, twisty way, this essentially fraud promoter can almost be looked at serving a little bit of good just for the entertainment.
Oh, sure.
Just for the entertainment purposes.
Absolutely. Even now as an adult,
mm-hmm.
if something like this came through, you'd go and see it? Like this weekend at the VFW, a frozen Bigfoot on display.
Hey, Frozen podcast co-host.
Yeah,
display.
I would still want to go see it.
There's me. They mistake me for a little chimpanzee, though.
Yeah, a little child orangutan. one arm much longer than what it should be, resting above your head.
Yeah. I think this is the frozen unborn fetus of a gorilla.
Yes. Yeah. And if you look closely through the milky ice, you can see the shape of a testicle and a small penis.
completely shorn of hair.
No, with very stubbly, curly red hair.
Oh, God, no. Come on, no.
Very orangish.
Okay.
No, anyway, I would still go and see it just for the campiness of it and just to enjoy the hype that would be all around it. I mean, if there were little kids going up there, and if I could see little kids with me as an adult, seeing little kids going up there to see this thing and see the excitement that they have and the belief that they have, I would love that.
That's a good point. That is,
it would still be fun. Especially if they sold like mini donuts or something at the same time.
No, it's always nice to put a positive spin on anything. If possible, it's always nice to put a positive spin on. But obviously, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I think it's a bunch of hogwash. So
sure.
I am, but I'm not going to dismiss it entirely, because at one point in my life, Mike, I was open to the idea as well. I mean, it was years and years and years ago, but when I first came across the story of the Minnesota ICEMAN. As longtime listeners know, I've had a lifelong fascination with Bigfoot and Sasquatch and Yeti, the abominable snowman, what have you, ever since I was a wee little lad in middle school,
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely believe in their existence. And this story was utterly intriguing. But yeah, you just look at it. It's obvious to me. It's obviously a bunch of BS, which is, that's just how it is to me. So I'm not going to beat around the bush, and that's how it is. In my opinion.
But still fascinating in its own right.
My opinion. That's all I'm saying. Well, damn it,
That
Mike.
works.
I think it's time to wrap up the show. I can't thank you enough, my friend. I hope this has been fairly fun for you, buddy.
Oh, absolutely. Even without any alcohol, I had a great time. And I think I pulled it off fairly well.
I think that's like the 90th time you've mentioned no alcohol. So,
hey, I'm proud of myself. I can do it. I can do it.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yes.
thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. It's been a blast, as always,
Very.
Mike. Until next time. Oh, yeah. By the way, go check out the Patreon page. Mike, until next time, what do our awesome listeners need to do, my friend?
Well, first of all, they need to remember that we love you all very much and we appreciate you. And then after that, in great parentheses with an exclamation mark, peace out.